They called her a stray, a jagged, broken thing, not worth the dirt beneath their boots. When Alpha King Roman Blackwood and his elite Iron Legion crested the ridge, they expected to find a battlefield of warriors. Instead, they saw her. Just one girl dressed in rags, standing in the mud, holding back an entire pack of feral rogues with nothing but a rusted iron bar and sheer desperation. The king's lieutenant laughed, calling it a pathetic sight. He told the king to let her fall. But Roman didn't laugh. He froze. Because as that poor girl turned to face the headlights, the Alpha King didn't just see a stranger. He saw the biggest mistake of his life and a secret that would bring his Emperor to its knees. This is the story of Rhea Sterling, and you are not ready for the truth. The rain in the Black Ridge territory didn't wash things clean. It just made the blood run faster. Rhea Sterling wiped a mixture of mud and crimson from her eyes, her breath coming in ragged, shallow gasps. She was 23, but tonight, standing in the shadow of the derelict gas station that served as her home, she felt 100 years old. "Give it up, you little rat," a voice boomed from the tree line. It was Cade, the leader of the Red Fang Rogues. He stepped out of the shadows, his massive frame shifting unnaturally, bones cracking as he hovered between human and wolf form. Behind him, 10 pairs of yellow eyes glowed in the darkness. Rhea gripped the heavy iron tire iron in her hand until her knuckles turned white. She wore a coat that was 3 sizes too big, held together by silver duct tape and combat boots she had scavenged from a dumpster 2 winters ago. To the world, she looked like trash, like a forgotten Omega left to die on the fringe of civilization. "You're not crossing this line, Cade," Rhea said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it had the texture of gravel and broken glass. It was a dangerous voice. Cade laughed, a guttural sound that vibrated in his chest. "Look at you. You're shaking. You haven't eaten in 3 days, Rhea. We've been watching. Just step aside. We only want the supplies inside. And maybe we'll have a little fun with you before we end it." Rhea didn't flinch. Behind her, inside the boarded-up station, were 3 runaway pups she had found shivering in a storm a week ago. They were sick, feverish, and terrified. She was the only thing standing between them and a slaughter. "I said," Rhea stepped forward, the iron bar raising slightly, "you are not crossing this line." Cade snarled. "Kill her!" The attack was instant. 2 of the rogues lunged. They were fast fueled by hunger and madness, but Rhea was desperate. As the first wolf, a mangy grey beast, leapt for her throat. She didn't retreat. She dropped to her knees, sliding through the mud. Thwack! She swung the iron bar upward with savage precision, catching the wolf under the jaw. The beast yelped mid-air, crashing into the wet asphalt behind her. She didn't have time to celebrate. The second one slammed into her side. Rhea hit the ground hard, the air leaving her lungs. Teeth grazed her shoulder, tearing through the duct-taped coat. Pain, white-hot and searing, shot down her arm. "Get off!" she screamed, jamming her thumb into the wolf's eye. The creature recoiled, howling. Rhea scrambled up her legs, trembling. She was bleeding now. Badly. The rain was freezing, stinging the fresh wound on her shoulder. Cade watched, amused. He hadn't even moved yet. "Impressive for a runt without a pack. But you're tired, Rhea. Look at you. You're pathetic." She spat a mouthful of blood onto the pavement. "Then come finish it yourself, you coward." It was a suicide taunt. She knew it. She just needed to buy time. Maybe a patrol would pass by. Maybe a miracle would happen. Cade's eyes narrowed. Fine. He began to shift fully, his body exploding into a massive, hulking black wolf. He roared a sound that shook the corrugated tin roof of the gas station. He charged. Rhea braced herself. She raised her rusted weapon, knowing it would snap like a twig against an alpha-level rogue. She closed her eyes for a split second, whispering a silent apology to the pups inside. I tried. Suddenly the ground began to vibrate. Not from the wolf, but from something deeper. Something rhythmic. Thum, thum, thum. Lights. Blinding white LED beams cut through the torrential rain, flooding the clearing. The roar of heavy engines drowned out Cade's growl. Rhea shielded her eyes, blinded. 3 massive matte black tactical SUVs, armored like tanks, smashed through the wooden perimeter fence. They drifted in the mud, forming a semicircle around the fight. The doors flew open in unison. Men in dark grey tactical gear poured out. They moved with a fluidity that was terrifying, silent, synchronized, lethal. On their chests was a symbol Rhea hadn't seen in 5 years. A silver wolf's head crowned in gold. The Royal Army. The Iron Legion. And stepping out of the center vehicle, wearing a long black trench coat over a tailored suit that cost more than Rhea's entire life, was a man who radiated power like a nuclear reactor. Alpha King Roman Blackwood. Rhea's heart stopped. Not from relief, but from terror. She turned back to Cade, who had paused, looking uncertain. Rhea didn't drop her weapon. She stood alone, sandwiched between a pack of killers and the king of the world. She looked like a beggar, a mad woman waving a stick. She had no idea that the man walking toward her was the husband she had been forced to forget. "Hold fire," Roman Blackwood ordered. His voice was calm baritone and carried effortlessly over the rain and engine noise. He stood by the open door of his armored SUV, his hands in his pockets. He didn't look like he was in a war zone. He looked like he was inspecting a property he intended to buy. Beside him stood his Beta Colton, a man with a scar running down his cheek and a perpetually bored expression. "What is this?" Colton asked, sneering as he looked at the scene, illuminated by the headlights. "Local dispute, drug addicts fighting over territory." Roman's icy blue eyes scanned the scene. He saw the rogues first, filthy feral, obviously violating the border treaties. Then his gaze landed on the girl. She was a mess. Her hair was matted with mud. Her coat was held together by tape, and she was holding a tire iron like it was Excalibur. She was bleeding from the shoulder, shivering violently, yet she hadn't run away. "A girl," Roman said, his tone unreadable. "Fighting an alpha rogue." Colton huffed, crossing his arms. "She's a stray Roman. Look at her, probably stealing scrap metal from that ruin. The rogues are just cleaning up the trash. Should we intervene, or let nature take its course? We're on a schedule." Roman watched. He felt a strange tug in his gut, an irritation he couldn't place. He hated weakness. He hated poverty and disorder. His kingdom was built on strength and perfection. This sight, a dirty girl in the mud, disgusted him. "Wait," Roman said. "Let's see if she has any fight in her. If she dies in 10 seconds, she wasn't worth saving." It was a cruel judgment. A king's judgment. Back in the clearing, Rhea didn't know they were placing bets on her life. She only knew that Cade had recovered from his shock and was realizing the king wasn't attacking him yet. "They don't care about you." Cade sneered, his wolf voice distorted and gravelly. "They're watching you die, girl." "Shut up," Rhea hissed. Cade lunged again. This time, Rhea didn't just swing. She moved. Years of surviving in the slums of the borderlands had taught her things the Royal Academy never could. As Cade swiped with massive claws, Rhea dropped flat on her back, sliding between his legs. As she slid, she hooked the curved end of the tire iron around Cade's back ankle and yanked. It was a move of pure physics. The massive wolf, mid-lunge, lost his balance. He crashed face first into the mud. Rhea scrambled up, screaming with effort, and brought the iron bar down on his ribs. Crack. Cade howled in agony. By the SUVs, Beta Colton's jaw dropped slightly. "Did you see that?" Roman's eyes narrowed. He took a step forward away from the safety of the vehicle. That move, the slide, the leg hook, it wasn't a brawler's move. It was a variation of the Vanguard takedown, a military technique taught only to the elite royal guard, or high-ranking nobility. How did a beggar girl in duct-taped boots know a royal combat form? Colton Roman said, his voice dropping an octave. "Look at her stance." Rhea was backing up now, panting. Her feet were shoulder-width apart, her weight on the balls of her feet. Her guard was perfect, despite her exhaustion. Cade was furious now. He scrambled up, foaming at the mouth. "I will rip your heart out." He signaled the rest of his pack. "All of you kill her. Forget the king. Kill her now." The remaining 8 wolves charged at once. "She's dead," Colton said, reaching for his assault rifle. "Roman, she's dead. We have to step in." "No," Roman whispered, his eyes locked on the girl. "Not yet." Rhea saw the wall of fur and teeth coming. She knew she couldn't win. She backed up until her back hit the rusted gas pump. She closed her eyes and did the one thing she had promised herself she would never do again. She reached inside herself to the place she had locked away 5 years ago, to the wolf she had buried so she could hide. She didn't shift. She was too malnourished to shift. But she let the aura out. For a split second, the air around the gas station rippled. A shockwave of pure purple-hued dominance flared out from her small, broken body. It wasn't the aura of an Omega. It wasn't even the aura of a normal warrior. It was the aura of a Luna. The oncoming wolves skidded to a halt, whining, their ears flattening against their skulls. They felt it. The command. The authority. Submit. It lasted only a second before Rhea collapsed, her energy spent, vomiting blood onto the concrete. Silence fell over the clearing. By the trucks, Roman Blackwood felt the shockwave hit him like a physical punch to the chest. His inner wolf, usually dormant and cold, slammed against his ribcage, howling a single word. "Mate." Roman staggered back, grabbing the door of the SUV for support. His face went pale. "Your Majesty?" Colton asked, alarmed. "Roman, what is it?" Roman ignored him. He stared at the small, crumpled figure in the mud. The rain washed over her, but he could still feel the residual energy humming in the air. "Kill the rogues," Roman ordered. His voice was terrifyingly quiet. "Kill them all. Leave none alive." "And the girl?" Colton asked. Roman began to walk forward, his expensive Italian leather shoes sinking into the mud, his eyes never leaving Rhea. "The girl," Roman said, "is coming with me." The Iron Legion moved with efficient brutality. As soon as Roman gave the order, the chaotic scene turned into a massacre. The suppression fire from the Beta unit cut through the remaining members of the Red Fang pack before they could even turn to run. Cade, the Alpha Rogue, tried to scramble into the woods, clutching his broken ribs. Roman didn't even look at him. He simply flicked his hand. A sniper shot rang out from the roof of the rear SUV. Cade dropped dead instantly. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the drumming of the rain and the idling engines of the trucks. Rhea was still conscious, but barely. She was curled on her side, clutching the tire iron against her chest as if it were a teddy bear. Her vision was blurring. She saw a pair of black shoes stop in front of her face. She looked up. From this angle, Roman Blackwood looked like a god of war. He towered over her, the rain dripping from his dark hair. His face was sharp, angular, and devastatingly handsome, but his expression was one of cold confusion. He crouched down, ignoring the mud ruining his suit. "Who are you?" he demanded. It wasn't a question. It was an interrogation. Rhea tried to speak, but her throat was raw. She coughed, flinching as he reached out a hand. "Don't touch them," she rasped. Roman frowned. "Touch who?" "The pups," she whispered, her eyes darting to the boarded-up door behind her. "Don't hurt them." Roman stared at her. She was bleeding out, surrounded by dead wolves, and her only concern was for whatever was inside that shack. "I am not here for pups," Roman said, his voice hard. "I am here for you. You used a royal aura. You used a vanguard stance. You look like a beggar, but you fight like a soldier. Explain." Rhea's eyes focused on his face. She searched for recognition. Did he know? Did he remember the summer night 5 years ago? The secret ceremony. The vows whispered in the dark. But his eyes were blank. He looked at her with curiosity. Perhaps pity, but not love. He doesn't remember, she realized. The poison worked. A wave of bitterness crashed over her, stronger than the pain of her wounds. She let out a dry, broken laugh. "I'm nobody," she lied. Her voice broke. "Just trash. Ask your lieutenant. That's what he called me." Roman's jaw tightened. He reached out and grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at him. The contact sent sparks flying through his skin, that electric buzz of the mate bond. He pulled his hand back as if burned. He felt it. He definitely felt it. But his mind couldn't process it. His memories told him his mate died in a fire years ago. His memories told him he was a widower. So why did this dirty, broken girl feel like home? "Colton!" Roman roared, standing up abruptly. Colton jogged over, his rifle slung over his shoulder. "Sir, get the medic. Stabilize her. Put her in the secure transport." "Sir, she's a rogue," Colton argued, looking at Rhea with disdain. "We can't bring a stray into the convoy. She probably has fleas or diseases. We should just give her some cash and leave." Roman turned on his beta, his eyes flashing gold, the color of the Alpha King. "Did I ask for your opinion, Colton?" Colton went pale. "No, my king. Secure her, and get whatever is in that shack. If she fought an Alpha for it, it's valuable." Roman turned his back on Rhea, walking away, because he couldn't stand the confusion raging in his head. He needed distance. He needed whiskey. As the medic swarmed her, lifting her onto a stretcher, Rhea watched Roman walk away. A tear leaked out of her eye, mixing with the rain. "You promised," she whispered to the empty air, her consciousness fading. "You promised you'd find me, Roman. But you looked right at me, and you didn't see me." The world went black. The journey back to the capital was a blur of motion and agony for Rhea. She floated in and out of consciousness in the back of the medical transport, the rhythmic hum of the tires on the wet highway vibrating through her bones. She woke up once disoriented to the smell of antiseptic and the sharp sting of a needle in her arm. She's malnourished, dehydrated, and has lost a significant amount of blood, a voice said. It was a woman's voice, clinical cold. But her healing factor is kicking in. It's unnaturally fast for a rogue. Just patch her up, a deeper voice commanded. Roman. And put her in the containment wing, not the general ward. I want her isolated. Sir, the containment wing is for high-value prisoners, the woman argued. She's just a girl in rags. Do it. Rhea drifted away again, the darkness swallowing her. When she woke properly, the world had stopped moving. She was lying on a metal cot in a room that looked less like a hospital and more like a high-tech vault. The walls were reinforced concrete, and one side was a sheet of bulletproof glass. She tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in her ribs forced a gasp from her lips. She looked down. Her dirty duct-taped coat was gone. She was dressed in a simple grey medical gown. Her arms were clean, the mud scrubbed away, revealing pale skin that was mapped with bruises. But it wasn't the bruises that made her chest tighten. It was the exposure. Without her layers of rags, she felt naked, vulnerable. The heavy steel door buzzed and slid open. Roman walked in. He had changed out of his muddy suit. He now wore a crisp black tactical shirt that hugged his shoulders and dark cargo pants. He looked less like a king and more like an executioner. He dragged a metal chair to the center of the room, spun it around, and sat straddling it. He stared at her for a long, uncomfortable minute. "Who taught you the Vanguard takedown?" he asked quietly. Rhea pulled her knees to her chest, wincing. "I saw it in a movie." Roman let out a dry, humorless laugh. "A movie? You expect me to believe a starving girl living in a gas station learned classified Royal Guard, CQC, from a movie?" He stood up and walked to the edge of the cot. The air in the room grew heavy. The alpha pressure. He was testing her, pushing his dominance onto her to see if she would break. "I ran a background check on your face," Roman said, his voice dropping. "Facial recognition software. The best in the world. And do you know what it found?" Rhea's heart hammered against her ribs. This is it, she thought. He knows. "Nothing," Roman whispered, leaning in close. "No birth certificate. No PAC registration. No driver's license. You don't exist. You are a ghost, Rhea." Rhea let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. "Maybe I don't want to be found." "Why?" Roman's eyes searched hers, frantic, looking for something he couldn't name. "When I saw you fight, when I felt that flare of aura, I felt something I haven't felt in years." He paused, his expression hardening. "Who sent you? Are you an assassin? A spy from the Southern Territories?" "I'm nobody," Rhea shouted, the frustration boiling over. "I'm just trying to survive. I was protecting the pups." "The pups," Roman repeated. "My men brought them in. 3 of them, sick with canine parvovirus. We have them in the vet ward. They'll live." Rhea slumped, relief washing over her. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Roman said. "Because until you tell me who you really are, you aren't leaving this cell." He reached out his hand, hovering over her shoulder where the wolf had bitten her. The bandage was fresh. "Turn around," he ordered. "What?" "Turn around. I want to see the extent of the damage to your back. The report said you had old scarring." Rhea froze. Panic, cold and sharp, spiked in her blood. "No. It wasn't a request." Rhea shook her head violently. "No. You can't." Roman didn't have patience for disobedience. He moved faster than she could track. He gripped her shoulder and spun her around. It wasn't gentle, but it wasn't abusive. It was the firm, undeniable handling of an alpha. He pulled the back of the hospital gown down. Silence filled the room, a silence so loud it rang in Rhea's ears. She knew what he was seeing. Her back wasn't just scarred from the fight with the rogues. It was a canvas of torture, a lattice of raised white burn marks, whip marks, and right in the center between her shoulder blades was a brand that had been burned into her skin 5 years ago. It wasn't a pack symbol. It was a word. Traitor. Roman stared at the skin. His breath hitched. He reached out his fingers, trembling as they traced the jagged, ugly letters of the brand. Who did this to you? Roman's voice was unrecognizable. It was shaking with a rage so profound, the lights in the room flickered. Rhea pulled away, scrambling to the corner of the cot, pulling the gown up to cover her shame. "Does it matter?" She spat, tears stinging her eyes. "I'm a traitor. That's what the brand says, isn't it? That's why I don't exist. That's why I live in the mud." Roman stood there, his hand still suspended in the air. He felt a phantom pain in his own back, a sympathetic echo of the torture she had endured. No pack brands their own like that anymore, Roman said, his mind racing. That is barbaric. That is a medieval punishment. "The world is a barbaric place, Your Majesty," Rhea whispered. "Not everyone lives in a glass castle." Roman looked at her. Really looked at her. He saw the fire in her eyes, the defiance, and beneath it a sadness so deep it looked like the ocean. He didn't know her name, not her real one. He didn't know her crime. But looking at that brand, he felt a murderous instinct rise up in him. He wanted to find the person who had held the iron that burned her skin, and he wanted to tear them apart with his bare hands. "I need to know," Roman said, stepping closer. "Tell me who did it." Rhea looked up at him, her eyes locking with his. "You want to know who destroyed me?" She paused, the secret sitting on the tip of her tongue. "You did, Roman. Your beta did. Your council did. And you let them because you forgot me." But she couldn't say it. If she told him she was his wife, the wife he thought was dead, and he didn't believe her, Colton would kill her before morning. She had to be smart. "The Red Fang," she lied. "Cade. He did it. Years ago. When I tried to leave his pack." Roman's posture relaxed slightly, though the anger remained. "Cade is dead. I killed him." "Then I guess I have justice," Rhea said hollowly. Roman nodded slowly. He turned to leave his hand on the door scanner. He paused. "You're safe here, Rhea. No one touches you without my permission. I'll have food sent down. Real food. Not slop." He walked out the door, sealing with a heavy thud. Rhea waited until she was sure he was gone. Then she collapsed back onto the pillow, burying her face in the mattress to muffle her sobs. She was safe from the cold. She was safe from the rogues. But she was now in the heart of the enemy's lair, lying to the only man she had ever loved, while his new life continued without her. And outside the door in the shadow of the hallway, Beta Colton was watching the security feed on his tablet. He zoomed in on the brand on her back. He didn't smile. He frowned. "That brand," Colton whispered to himself. "I remember that brand. I paid the torturer extra to make it deep." Colton's eyes widened. He dialed a number on his encrypted phone. "She's alive," Colton hissed into the phone. "The Sterling girl. She's alive and she's in the Citadel. We have a problem." Night fell over the Citadel, a sprawling fortress of glass and steel, located in the heart of Seattle. The rain had stopped, leaving the city slick and reflecting the neon lights of the skyline. In the penthouse suite of the Alpha Tower, King Roman Blackwood could not sleep. He poured himself a glass of amber liquid, a rare 25-year-old single malt, and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. He looked out over his kingdom. He was the strongest alpha in a century. He had united the warring factions, crushed the rebellion, and brought unprecedented wealth to his pack. He had everything. So why did he feel so empty? He took a sip of the whiskey, the burn settling in his chest. His mind kept drifting back to the girl in the cell. Rhea. Why does she smell like lavender and rain, he wondered. Why does her voice sound like a song I used to know? He turned away from the window and walked to his desk. He opened the drawer and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring, a simple silver band with a small, rough-cut diamond. It was the ring found in the ashes of the hunting lodge fire 5 years ago, the fire where his intended mate had died. Except he couldn't remember her face. It was the strangest thing. The doctors, specifically the royal physician, Dr. Alistair Thorne, had told him it was trauma-induced amnesia. The fire had been intense. The smoke inhalation had damaged the memory centers of his brain. He remembered loving someone. He remembered the feeling of loss. But when he tried to picture her, it was just grey static. He had accepted it. He had moved on. But tonight, after touching Rhea's shoulder, a crack had formed in the grey wall. Flash. A memory hit him so hard he dropped his glass. It shattered on the hardwood floor. He was in a field, tall grass, summer. A girl was laughing, running ahead of him. She turned back. The sun was behind her, obscuring her features, but he saw her hair, long, dark, and she was wearing combat boots. Roman gripped the edge of his desk, gasping. "Combat boots," he whispered. She wore combat boots with a summer dress. It was a tiny detail, insignificant to anyone else, but to him it was an anchor. He grabbed his phone. He needed to see the footage from the interrogation again. He pulled up the file. He watched Rhea sitting on the cot, defiant, angry. He zoomed in on her feet. In the cell she was barefoot, but he remembered the boots she was wearing in the mud. They were old, held together by tape. He scrolled back to the tactical camera footage from the fight. He paused the video just as she did the Vanguard takedown. There, on her wrist. The resolution was grainy, but as her sleeve pulled back during the punch, there was something on her inner wrist, a tattoo, no a scar, a small crescent-shaped scar. Roman looked at his own hand. On his left palm there was a matching scar, a blood oath scar. He didn't remember making a blood oath. "Dr. Thorne," Roman snarled, grabbing his jacket and storming out of the penthouse. "I need to speak to Thorne, now." Down in the medical levels, Dr. Alistair Thorne was not expecting a visit from the king at 2:00 a.m. Thorne was a slim man with silver-rimmed glasses and a nervous demeanor. He was currently in his lab mixing a clear, viscous liquid into a vial labeled Neurosuppressant Type 4. The door to his lab was kicked open. Thorne jumped, nearly dropping the vial. "Your Majesty, you startled me." Roman didn't apologize. He stalked into the room, his presence filling the space with suffocating alpha pheromones. He slammed his scarred hand onto the metal table. "What is this?" Roman demanded, pointing to his palm. Thorne swallowed hard, adjusting his glasses. That is an old injury, sire. From a training accident when you were a teenager. We've discussed this." "Don't lie to me, Alistair," Roman growled. His eyes were flashing gold. "I had a flashback tonight. I saw a girl. I saw boots. And I saw this scar on someone else." Thorne's heart rate spiked. The monitors in the room beeped, betraying his anxiety. "Memory acts in strange ways, Roman," Thorn said, using the king's first name to try and soothe him. "Stress can cause hallucinations. You've been working too hard. The situation with the rogues, it wasn't a hallucination," Roman shouted. He grabbed Thorn by the lapels of his lab coat and slammed him against the wall. Beakers rattled on the shelves. "I saw her. The girl in the cell. Rhea. Why does she feel like my mate, Thorn? Why does my wolf howl for her?" Thorn was sweating now. "Sire, please. You're being irrational. Your mate died." "We found the body. We did the DNA test." "Did we?" Roman hissed. "Or did you do the DNA test?" Roman released him with a shove. He paced the room like a caged tiger. He stopped in front of the counter where Thorn had been working. He picked up the vial. "Neurosuppressant." Roman read the label. "Who is this for?" Thorn hesitated. "It's for a patient in the psychiatric ward." Roman uncorked it and sniffed. It had no smell, but his wolf recoiled. "This isn't medicine," Roman said, a cold realization washing over him. "This is poison." He turned on Thorn. "Have you been dosing me?" Thorn went pale. "No, never, I swear on my life." "Then drink it," Roman said, holding the vial out. Thorn stared at the liquid. I can't. It's potent. It would cause brain damage in a healthy, localized subject." "So it suppresses memories," Roman concluded. "It suppresses the bond." He threw the vial against the wall. It shattered. "I have been taking vitamins from you every morning for 5 years," Roman said, his voice deadly calm. "Since the fire. You told me they were for my lungs, to help with the smoke damage." He walked up to Thorn, looming over him. "You have been erasing her from my mind for 5 years." Thorn began to weep, crumbling to the floor. "I had no choice. They made me do it. They said it was for the good of the kingdom. That she was an Omega. That a king couldn't be mated to a nothing. They threatened my family." "Who?" Roman roared. "Who made you do it?" "Colton," Thorn screamed. "It was Colton, and the council head Lord Malachi. They staged the fire. They took her away. Please don't kill me." Roman stood there, the world tilting on its axis. Colton, his best friend, his beta, the man who had stood beside him in the mud tonight and told him to let the girl die. Colton knew. All this time, he knew. And Rhea, the beggar girl with the brand on her back. She wasn't a traitor. She was his wife. She was the queen, and she had been living in hell for 5 years while he sat on a throne of lies. Roman didn't kill Thorn. That was too easy. "Guards!" Roman bellowed. 2 royal guards rushed in. "Arrest Dr. Thorn. Charge him with high treason. If he speaks to anyone, cut out his tongue." "Yes, sire." Roman turned and sprinted out of the lab. He didn't head for the penthouse. He headed for the elevator. He punched the button for the detention level. He had to get to her. He had to apologize. He had to beg on his knees if he had to. But as the elevator descended, his phone buzzed. It was a security alert. Unauthorized access detention. Block. B prisoner transfer initiated. Roman's blood ran cold. He looked at the security feed on his phone. He saw Colton's men entering Rhea's cell. He saw them inject her with a sedative. He saw them dragging her limp body out the back exit. "No," Roman whispered. The elevator doors opened, and he took off, running. "Colton!" He screamed, his voice shaking the foundations of the citadel. But he was too late. The loading bay doors were open. The tail lights of a black van were fading into the rainy night. They had her. Again, and this time Roman knew exactly who he had to kill to get her back. The king wasn't just awake anymore. The king was at war. The rain had turned into a full-blown storm. Thunder rattled the windows of the black Mercedes G-Wagon as King Roman Blackwood tore down the highway at 140 miles per hour. He wasn't driving with skill. He was driving with desperation. His knuckles were white on the leather steering wheel. On the dashboard, a tracking dot pulsed red on a digital map. Target Beta Clearance Vehicle 02. Location, the old foundry sector 4. "Pick up," Roman growled, slamming his hand against the console. He was calling General Halloway the head of the Iron Legion. Finally, the line clicked. "Sire, Halloway." Roman's voice was a low, dangerous rumble. "Colton has gone rogue. He has a prisoner. He is heading to the foundry. I want the airspace shut down. I want every exit blocked. If a single rat gets out of that industrial zone, I will have your head." "Colton." Halloway sounded stunned. "Sir, that's your beta. Are you Do it!" Roman roared, ending the call. He drifted the heavy SUV around a sharp curve, tires screeching smoke rising from the asphalt. He didn't care if he crashed. He only cared about the woman in the back of Colton's van. Rhea. The name tasted like ash and honey in his mouth. The memories were flooding back now, breaking through the chemical dam Dr. Thorne had built in his mind. He remembered her smile. He remembered the way she used to read by the fireplace. He remembered the night he proposed, not with a diamond, but with a promise written on a scrap of paper. He remembered the fire, the smell of gasoline. The body they claimed was hers, burned beyond recognition. It was a fake, he realized, tears blurring his vision. They killed a random stranger to fake her death. They stole 50 years of my life. Ahead, the looming silhouette of the old foundry appeared. It was a graveyard of rusted steel and crumbling brick situated on a cliff overlooking the churning black ocean. Roman saw the taillights of the van disappear into the main warehouse. He didn't slow down. He gunned the engine. The Mercedes smashed through the chain-link gate metal, shrieking, and skidded to a halt in the center of the muddy courtyard. Roman kicked the door open and stepped out. He didn't draw a weapon. He didn't need one. The killing intent radiating off him was thick enough to choke on. Inside the warehouse, floodlights snapped on. Beta Colton stood on a raised steel gantry, 20 feet above the ground. He looked down at Roman, his face twisted in a sneer of arrogance and pity. Below him, suspended by chains over a vat of molten industrial runoff, was Rhea. She was conscious, groggy from the sedative swinging precariously over the steaming chemical sludge. "Let her go, Colton," Roman said. His voice wasn't loud, but it echoed through the cavernous space like a gunshot. "I can't do that, Roman," Colton called down his voice, casual. "We've come too far. The kingdom is stable. The alliances are set. You are the strongest king in history. Do you really want to throw it all away for her?" Colton gestured to Rhea. "Look at her. She's broken. She's branded. She's a nobody. An omega with delusions of grandeur. If you take her back, the High Council will revolt. The Southern Pax will see it as weakness." "The only weakness here is you," Roman said, walking forward into the light. "You betrayed your king. You drugged me. You tortured my wife." "I saved you," Colton screamed, losing his composure. "She was dragging you down. You were soft with her. You wanted to build schools and hospitals instead of armies. I made you a warrior, Roman. I took away your heart so you could use your fists." Rhea stirred in her chains. She looked down at the chemicals bubbling below her, then up at Roman. "Roman," she whispered. Her voice was weak, but he heard it. He heard it with his wolf's hearing. Don't fight him. He has snipers." Roman's eyes flicked to the shadows of the rafters. He smelled them. 4 shooters. "It's over, Roman," Colton said, pulling a detonator from his pocket. "Walk away. Go back to the palace. Forget her again. I have a new dose of the suppressant ready. We can go back to how it was." Roman looked up at his best friend. "You think I can forget this?" "You have to," Colton said, "or she drops." He held his thumb over the button that would release the chains. Roman stopped moving. He stood perfectly still in the center of the kill zone. He looked at Rhea. Their eyes met. In that moment, 5 years of pain vanished. There was only the bond, the absolute terrifying connection between 2 souls. "Do you trust me?" Roman mouthed. Rhea blinked. Tears streamed down her dirty face. She nodded. Roman closed his eyes. He didn't shift into a wolf. He did something more dangerous. He channeled his alpha command, not at the wolves, but at the structure. He roared. It wasn't a word. It was a wave of pure acoustic force, amplified by his alpha dominance. Drop. The snipers in the rafters flinched, their hands shaking instinctively at the command. In that split second of distraction, Roman pulled a concealed Sig Sauer P-26 from his waistband. He didn't aim at Colton. He aimed at the chain mechanism holding Rhea. Bang! The bullet severed the hydraulic line. The chain didn't drop slowly. It snapped. Rhea plummeted toward the chemical vat. "No!" Colton screamed, pressing the detonator, but the mechanism was already broken. Rhea fell, but she didn't hit the sludge. She swung. The severed chain created a pendulum. She swung in a wide arc, clearing the vat by inches, and smashed into the metal walkway on the other side. She scrambled for a grip, her boots slipping on the wet grating. She pulled herself up safe. Roman turned his gaze back to Colton. His eyes were fully gold now. "Now," Roman said, holstering his gun and cracking his knuckles. "Come down here and die like a man." Colton didn't come down. He ran. "Kill him!" Colton screamed to his men as he sprinted along the catwalk toward the rear exit. "Kill the king!" The 4 snipers opened fire. Bullets sparked against the concrete floor, dancing around Roman's feet. Roman moved. He was a blur of black tactical gear. He rolled behind a rusted generator, grabbed a heavy iron pipe, and hurled it like a javelin into the darkness of the rafters. A scream followed, and a body fell to the floor with a sickening thud. 1 down. Rhea, watching from the gantry, knew she couldn't just watch. She was weak, she was injured, but she was the Luna. She saw a sniper taking aim at Roman's blind spot. She didn't have a weapon, but she had rage. She grabbed a loose, heavy wrench from the walkway. She spotted a fire alarm lever on the wall next to her. She smashed the wrench into it. Clang, 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 clang. The industrial alarm blared, deafening and disorienting. The sniper flinched, looking up. "Hey!" Rhea screamed, her voice cutting through the noise. The sniper hesitated. That second was all Roman needed. He broke cover, leaped up the side of a shipping container, and launched himself at the second gunman, tearing him from his perch. It was a massacre. The Iron Legion wasn't here yet. This was just Roman, dismantling the traitors piece by piece. Within 2 minutes, the warehouse was silent, save for the alarm and the rain pounding on the tin roof. Roman stood amidst the wreckage, breathing hard, blood dripping from a graze on his cheek. He looked up. Colton was cornered. He had reached the roof access door, but it was jammed. He was pounding on it, panicked. Roman walked up the stairs, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. Clang, clang, clang. Colton turned around his back against the door. He pulled a knife, a silver blade. "Stay back!" Colton shrieked. "I did this for the kingdom." Roman stopped 3 steps below him. "You branded her," Roman said softly. "You put a cattle brand on my wife. She was a distraction. She was my soul." Roman roared, lunging forward. He caught Colton's wrist mid-swing. There was a sickening snap as Roman broke the beater's arm like a dry twig. Colton screamed, dropping the knife. Roman grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off his feet, slamming him against the metal door. "Please," Colton gargled, his face turning purple. "We're brothers, Roman. We grew up together." "My brother died the day you lied to me," Roman said. He tightened his grip. "Roman, wait." The voice came from below. It was Rhea. Roman froze. He didn't let go of Colton, but he looked down. Rhea had climbed down the ladder. She limped toward them, holding her side. She looked up at the 2 men, the king and the traitor. "Don't kill him," Rhea said. Colton's eyes widened with hope. "Yes, listen to her. She shows mercy." "I don't want mercy," Rhea said, her voice cold as ice. She walked up the stairs until she was eye level with Colton. She turned her back to him. She lowered the shoulder of her torn medical gown, revealing the ugly raised scar of the brand. "Look at it," she commanded. Colton stared at the word, traitor, burned into her skin. "You marked me," Rhea said. "You stole my name. You stole my life. Death is too easy for you, Colton." She turned back to Roman. "Strip him of his rank," she said. "Exile him. Let him run as a rogue. Let him live in the mud like I did. Let him feel the cold. Let him be hunted." Roman looked at his wife. He saw the strength in her eyes. She wasn't the broken girl he had found in the rain. She was a queen, delivering a sentence. Roman looked back at Colton. He felt disgusted. "You heard the queen," Roman said. He ripped the beta insignia off Colton's uniform, tearing the fabric. Then, with a casual shove, he threw Colton over the railing. Colton fell 20 feet, crashing into a pile of garbage bags and wet cardboard. He groaned, broken, but alive. "Get out of my city," Roman's voice boomed from above. "If I see you again, I won't just kill you. I will let her kill you." Colton scrambled up, clutching his broken arm, and limped into the rainy night, a nobody. Roman turned to Rhea. The adrenaline was fading, leaving only the raw, shaking reality of the moment. He reached out his hand, hovering near her face, afraid to touch her, afraid she was a hallucination. "Rhea," he choked out. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear to the moon goddess, I didn't know." Rhea looked at this powerful man, this king who made armies tremble now, weeping silently in front of her. She reached up and placed her small, scarred hand on his cheek. "I know," she whispered. "You came back. You promised you would, and you did." Roman pulled her into his arms. He buried his face in her neck, inhaling the scent of lavender and rain that he had missed for 5 years. He held her tight as if trying to fuse their broken pieces back together. Outside, the sirens of the Iron Legion finally arrived, surrounding the building. General Holloway kicked open the doors, leading a squad of 50 elite soldiers. They raised their weapons, ready for war. "Secure the area," Holloway shouted. He looked up to the gantry and saw the king holding a woman in a hospital gown. "Sire," Holloway called out. "Is the threat neutralized? Who is the prisoner?" Roman pulled away from Rhea slightly, but he kept his arm firmly around her waist. He looked down at his army. He looked at the soldiers who had mocked her, the world that had forgotten her. "There is no prisoner here," Roman's voice projected across the warehouse, commanding absolute silence. He took Rhea's hand and raised it high. "Soldiers of the Iron Legion, bow down." The soldiers looked confused for a split second. "Bow!" Roman roared, his alpha aura exploding outward, shaking the very steel of the building. 50 soldiers dropped to one knee, instantly, heads lowered. "You are not looking at a stray," Roman announced, his voice filled with pride and fury. "You are looking at Rhea Blackwood, my mate, my life, and your queen." Rhea stood there, looking out at the sea of bowed heads. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't the girl in the duct-taped coat. She squeezed Roman's hand. He squeezed back. The Alpha King had his army. But more importantly, he had his heart back. And the poor girl who fought alone. She would never have to fight alone again. And that is the story of how a forgotten girl brought an empire to its knees. Roman and Rhea's journey proves that true power isn't about status, wealth, or the crown you wear. It's about the spirit you carry when you have nothing left. Colton thought he could break Rhea by taking away her title, but he forgot that a queen is a queen even in rags. What did you think of Roman's decision to exile Colton instead of killing him? Was it justice or a mistake to let a villain live? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Share this video with a friend who loves a dramatic twist, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next saga. Until next